If you keep explaining yourself to be respected, you are already losing authority. The cost is subtle but constant, being questioned, overlooked, and quietly tested. In this audiobook, you will learn how respect is actually created through presence, restraint, and calm control. You're listening to Win Respect in Any Room Without Explaining Yourself. Full audiobook on Ruthless Equanimity. Introduction. Respect is not earned by explaining yourself. It's earned by no longer needing to. Most people spend their lives justifying their decisions, defending their boundaries, and over-explaining their presence. They think more words equal more clarity. More reasons equal more authority. But the opposite is true. Every extra sentence you speak to prove your worth is a signal that you're not sure of it yourself. And people feel that uncertainty immediately. This audiobook will teach you how to win respect in any room without explaining yourself. Not by being louder, not by being colder, but by understanding the psychology of how respect is actually assigned, and how to position yourself so that people defer to you before you've said a word. You won't find motivational speeches here. You won't find abstract theory. What you will find is a framework, a clear, psychologically grounded system for how to communicate, carry yourself, and set boundaries in ways that make people take you seriously. Not because you demanded it, because you embodied it. This book is for adults who are tired of being interrupted, tired of having their boundaries tested, tired of feeling like they have to perform or prove themselves in every conversation. It's for people who want calm authority, the kind that doesn't need to announce itself because it's already felt. You'll learn why respect is registered before you speak, why over-explaining destroys your authority faster than saying nothing, how social status is read in the first 3 seconds of interaction, how to speak without asking for permission, how to set boundaries that don't sound defensive, how to say less without becoming cold, how to stay calm when you're being tested, how to use silence as a position of strength, how to handle disrespect without reacting, and how to become someone who is simply not questioned. This is not about manipulation. It's not about dominance. It's about clarity. It's about knowing who you are and communicating that with such calm certainty that other people instinctively respect it. It's about removing the habits that leak your power, the need for approval, the reflex to explain, the urge to fill every silence, and replacing them with grounded, controlled presence. If you're ready to stop justifying yourself and start commanding rooms, this audiobook will show you how. If you're ready to be taken seriously without raising your voice or proving your worth, keep listening. Because by the end of this, you won't just understand respect. You'll walk differently. You'll speak differently. And people will treat you differently. Let's begin. Chapter 1. Why respect is felt before it is spoken. Daniel walked into the quarterly review meeting 3 minutes late. He didn't apologize. He didn't rush. He set his notebook down, pulled out his chair slowly, and made brief eye contact with the senior director before sitting. The room, which had been humming with casual chatter, went quiet for a moment. Not because Daniel said anything, but because the way he entered communicated certainty. He belonged there, and everyone felt it before he opened his mouth. Across the table sat Lauren. She'd been in the meeting for 10 minutes already, contributing actively, offering ideas, nodding enthusiastically at every comment. But when she spoke, people talked over her. When she made a point, it was absorbed without acknowledgement. She had all the right words. Daniel had barely spoken, yet the difference in how they were treated was immediate and undeniable. Respect is not a response to what you say. It's a response to what people sense about you before you say it. It's read in your posture, your eye contact, the speed of your movements, the steadiness of your breathing, and the comfort you display in your own presence. These signals are processed unconsciously within the first few seconds of interaction, and they determine whether people will take you seriously or test you. Web 28, Web 29, Web 31. Most people focus entirely on their words. They rehearse what to say, how to say it, what tone to use, but they ignore the foundation, the nonverbal communication that accounts for more than half of how authority is perceived. And when that foundation is weak, no amount of eloquence will create respect. The psychology of pre-verbal respect. Human beings are wired to assess status and competence instantly. This is not conscious judgment, it's evolutionary pattern recognition. For thousands of years, understanding social hierarchy kept us safe. We needed to know who to follow, who to challenge, and who to defer to. That instinct is still active today, even in conference rooms and social gatherings. Web 23, Web 27, Web 32. Within 3 seconds of seeing you, people have made preliminary assessments about your confidence, competence, and authority. These assessments are based on micro-cues: how you hold your shoulders, whether your gaze is steady or avoidant, how quickly you move, whether your facial expression is tense or relaxed, and whether you seem comfortable occupying space. Web 28, Web 29. High-status individuals move deliberately, not frantically. They maintain eye contact without staring aggressively. They breathe slowly and visibly occupy space without apologizing for it. Their body language communicates, "I am supposed to be here." Low-status individuals move quickly and nervously. They avoid prolonged eye contact. They make themselves physically smaller. They signal, "I'm not sure I belong." Web 31, File 9. The critical insight is this: these signals are not fixed traits. They are learned behaviors, and they can be unlearned and replaced. You don't need to change your personality. You need to change the unconscious habits that undermine your authority before you've said a single word. What kills respect before you speak? Rushed movements. When you enter a space quickly, fumbling with your belongings, you communicate anxiety. Slow, deliberate movement signals control. Web 28. Apologetic posture. Slouched shoulders, head tilted down, arms crossed protectively, all signal submission. Upright posture with shoulders back signals confidence. Web 29, Web 31. Avoiding eye contact, looking away immediately when someone meets your gaze signals discomfort with attention. Holding eye contact for 2 to 3 seconds signals comfort with being seen. Web 28. Filling silence nervously. Jumping in to speak immediately or laughing to break tension signals discomfort with stillness. Comfort with silence signals self-assurance. File. Seeking permission with your body. Hovering at doorways, waiting to be invited to sit, glancing around to see where you're allowed to be. These signal uncertainty. Walking in and choosing your position signals ownership. Web 27. Over-smiling. Constant smiling, especially when nothing is funny, is a status-lowering behavior. It signals a need to be liked. Neutral facial expressions with intentional smiles signal groundedness. Web 28. Web 29. These micro-behaviors accumulate. Individually, they seem minor. Together, they create an impression that you're someone who needs permission to exist in the space. And once people perceive you that way, your words will always be filtered through that lens. What creates respect before you speak? Controlled entry. When you enter a room, do it calmly. Don't rush. Don't look around anxiously for approval. Choose where you want to be and move there with purpose. Web 31. Grounded posture. Stand or sit with your spine straight, shoulders back but relaxed, weight evenly distributed. Occupy the space your body takes up without shrinking. Web 29. Web 31. Steady eye contact. When someone looks at you, hold their gaze for 2 to 3 seconds before looking away naturally. Don't stare them down. Don't look away immediately. Just be comfortable being seen. Web 28. Slow breathing. Visible calm comes from breath control. Breathe slowly and deeply. This lowers your heart rate and signals to others that you're not anxious. File. Comfortable silence. Don't rush to fill pauses, let silence sit. High-status people are never in a hurry to speak. They wait until they have something worth saying. File. Claiming space. Don't make yourself small. If you're sitting, place your hands on the armrests or table. If you're standing, don't cross your arms or put your hands in your pockets. Be visibly present. Web 29. Real-life scenarios. At work, you walk into a meeting that's already started. Low presence response. Rush in, apologize repeatedly, squeeze into the nearest seat, pull out your materials frantically. High presence response. Walk in calmly. Make brief eye contact with the speaker. Choose a seat without asking permission. Sit down slowly and only then pull out your materials. You've signaled, I'm not flustered. I belong here. Web 31. In social settings, you're at a networking event and don't know anyone. Low presence response. Hover near the edges, look at your phone, wait for someone to approach you. High presence response. Walk to the center of the room. Stand with open body language, make eye contact with individuals and wait. Someone will engage you because you look like someone worth talking to. Web 23. Web 27. In conflict, someone challenges you in front of others. Low presence response. Tense up immediately. Lean forward aggressively, raise your voice. High presence response. Stay physically still. Slow your breathing. Maintain steady eye contact, and speak only after a deliberate pause. Your body says, I'm not threatened. File. Meeting authority. You're speaking with someone senior to you. Low presence response. Make yourself smaller. Avoid eye contact. Speak quickly. Laugh nervously. High presence response. Stand or sit at the same height if possible. Maintain comfortable eye contact. Speak at a normal pace. Don't fill pauses with unnecessary words. You're signaling, I respect your position, but I also respect myself. Web 31. Exact scripts, what not to say and what to do instead. This chapter is about what happens before words. But here's what verbal behavior matches the presence. Instead of apologizing for existing, sorry, sorry to interrupt, sorry, do you have a second? Do, enter, sit, or speak without apologizing. I need 5 minutes after this. Not, sorry, I know you're busy, but instead of asking permission to contribute, is it okay if I add something? Can I just say, do, simply contribute? Here's another angle. Not, would it be okay if I shared my perspective? Instead of narrating your nervousness, I'm so nervous. I don't usually do this. Do. Say nothing about your internal state. Let your calm body language speak instead of filling silence with small talk immediately. Do. Let the first few seconds be quiet. Settle into the space, then engage when you're ready. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The slow entry for the next week. Every time you enter a room, work, social, home, slow your pace by 50%. Walk in deliberately. Choose where you want to be. Sit or stand without rushing. Notice how differently people respond to you. Web 28. Web 31. Exercise 2. 3-second eye contact practice. Holding eye contact with people for 3 full seconds before looking away naturally. Not aggressive staring, just comfortable, steady presence. Do this 10 times today. Web 28. Exercise 3. Posture check. Set a timer to go off every hour. When it does, check your posture. Are your shoulders back? Is your spine straight? Are you making yourself small? Adjust. Over time, grounded posture becomes automatic. Web 29. Web 31. Exercise 4. Box breathing practice. Box breathing. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4. Exhale for 4, hold for 4. Repeat 5 times before any high-stakes interaction. This physiologically calms your nervous system and creates visible calm. File. Exercise 5. Claim your space. In your next meeting or conversation, consciously take up more physical space. Sit with your arms on the armrests. Stand with your feet shoulder-width apart. Don't cross your arms or make yourself compact. Notice how this changes how people engage with you. Web 29. Exercise 6. Silence before speaking. In your next 3 conversations, pause for 3 full seconds before you respond to any question or comment. Let the silence sit. This trains you to be comfortable with stillness and signals that you're not reactive. File, unfile. Exercise 7. Remove apologetic language for 48 hours. Do not apologize unless you've actually done something wrong. No sorry for existing, taking up space, or needing something. Track how many times you almost apologized. Then don't. File some. Respect is not about what you say. It's about what people feel when you're in the room, and what they feel is determined by signals you're sending before your first word. Master those signals, and you'll never need to explain yourself again, because your presence will have already told them everything they need to know. Chapter 2. The Over-Explanation Reflex. Where authority leaks, Sarah was presenting her marketing proposal to the executive team. She'd prepared thoroughly. Her data was solid. Her strategy was clear. But halfway through her second slide, she started adding context. Now, I know this might seem counterintuitive, but let me explain why I chose this approach. I've actually been thinking about this for weeks, and I considered several other options, but after analyzing the data and talking to a few people, I realized that this made the most sense because 5 minutes later, she was still explaining. The CFO had stopped taking notes. The CEO was checking his phone. Sarah had lost the room, not because her idea was weak, but because she couldn't stop justifying it. Over-explanation is where most people lose their authority, not in what they say, but in how much they say. Every extra sentence you use to justify your position is a signal that you're not confident in it. Every additional reason you provide suggests you think the first one wasn't enough. And when you keep explaining past the point of clarity, people stop listening to your logic and start questioning your certainty. The over-explanation reflex is a defense mechanism. It comes from fear. Fear of being misunderstood, fear of being rejected, fear of being challenged. So you preemptively defend yourself. You pile on reasons. You anticipate objections and address them before anyone asks. You think you're being thorough, but what you're actually doing is giving your power away, one unnecessary sentence at a time. High authority people explain once clearly. Then they stop. They trust their judgment enough to let it stand without decoration. They understand that confidence is communicated through brevity, not volume. And they're comfortable with the reality that not everyone will agree, and that's acceptable. The psychology of over-explanation. Over-explanation stems from a deep need for external validation. When you're not internally certain about your position, you seek external confirmation that you're right. So you keep talking, hoping that more words will convince others, and by extension, convince yourself. File. This pattern creates a paradox. The more you explain, the less confident you appear. And the less confident you appear, the less seriously people take your position. You're trying to build credibility, but you're actually eroding it with every additional justification. Web 23. Web 27. Neuroscience shows that when people detect uncertainty in your communication, through hesitation, repetitive explanations, or excessive justification, their brain's threat detection system activates. They unconsciously categorize you as someone whose judgment may not be reliable. This happens below conscious awareness, which is why even well-intentioned over-explainers struggle to command respect. Web 29. The most respected people in any field share a common trait. They make their point in as few words as necessary, then stop. They don't defend preemptively. They don't justify unprompted. They state their position with calm certainty and let it breathe. If someone has questions, they'll ask. If someone disagrees, they'll say so. But until then, silence is more powerful than elaboration. File mun web 20. What over-explanation looks like preemptive defense. I know this might sound strange, but you might not agree with this, but before you say anything, let me just explain. You're defending against attacks that haven't happened yet. File. Multiple justifications. Instead of giving one strong reason, you provide 5 medium ones. I chose this because of A and also B, and actually C is important too, plus D, and honestly E played a role as well. One strong reason carries more weight than 5 weak ones stacked together. File. Unnecessary context. So basically what happened was, followed by a 10-minute backstory when a 2-sentence summary would suffice. Context is valuable. Excessive context is exhausting. File. Hedging language. I think maybe we could possibly consider it might be worth trying. Perhaps we should? These phrases dilute your message. They signal that you're not committed to your own idea. File. Repetition for reassurance. Saying the same thing 3 different ways because you're not sure it landed the first time. So to summarize, basically what I'm saying is, in other words, if they didn't understand, they'll ask. File. Justifying decisions no one questioned. Someone asks where you're going for lunch. You respond with, well, I was thinking about that new place because I heard good things, and also I haven't been there yet, plus it's not too expensive and the menu looks interesting. They just asked where. The new bistro on 5th would have been enough. What confident communication looks like one clear reason. I'm recommending this approach because it addresses the core problem directly. Period. If they want more detail, they'll request it. File. No preemptive defense. State your position. Don't defend it until someone challenges it. Trust that your judgment can withstand scrutiny. Web 27. Brevity with confidence. Make your point in 2 to 3 sentences maximum. Then stop. Let silence do the rest of the work. File Sumo. Web. Elimination of hedging. We should do this. Not, I think maybe we should possibly do this. Speak in statements, not suggestions. File no. Comfort with questions. If someone asks for clarification, provide it. But don't assume everyone needs it. Respect their ability to speak up if confused. File. Real-life scenarios at work. Your manager asks why you made a specific decision. Low authority response. Well, I considered a lot of options and I talked to several people and I thought about it for a long time and there were multiple factors, but ultimately I felt like this was probably the best choice because... High authority response. It solved the immediate problem without creating new ones. Happy to walk through the specifics if needed. You answered the question. You offered more detail if requested. But you didn't drown them in justification. File still. In relationships, your partner asks why you chose a particular restaurant. Low authority response. Well, I know you like Italian and I remembered you mentioned this place once, plus it has good reviews and it's not too far and they have vegetarian options and... High authority response. I thought you'd enjoy it. If they want to know more, they'll ask. Otherwise, you've answered without over-explaining. File. In negotiations, you're discussing salary. They offer a number below your expectation. Low authority response. Well, I've been in the industry for X years and I have these skills and I've done similar work before and my expenses are high and I really think I'm worth more because... High authority response. Based on my experience and the market rate, I'm looking for why. Then silence. Let them respond. You stated your position. Over-explaining makes you look desperate. Web 27. Setting boundaries. Someone asks you to take on extra work. Low authority response. I'd love to help, but I'm really swamped right now and I have these other commitments and I'm not sure I'd do a good job and I don't want to let anyone down. High authority response. I won't be able to take that on. If they need to know why, my bandwidth is full. That's sufficient file, exact scripts, what to say and what not to say. Instead of, I think maybe we should consider possibly trying this approach because I've been thinking about it and it seems like it might work and here are 7 reasons why. Say, we should try this approach. It addresses the main issue directly. Instead of, I know this might sound weird, but I actually disagree with that and let me tell you why I think that's not the right way to look at it. Say, I see it differently. Instead of, so to give you some context, basically what happened was, I was looking at the data and I noticed this pattern and I started thinking about, say, the data shows X. Here's what that means for us. Instead of, I'm not available because I have these other commitments and I've already committed to helping someone else, and I'm really behind on my own work. Say, I'm not available. Instead of, does that make sense? Am I explaining this clearly? Should I go over it again? Let me know if you need more detail. Say, make your point, stop. If they're confused, they'll tell you. Instead of, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be difficult, but I just can't do that right now because... Say, I can't do that. The pattern is identical across all scenarios. State your position once, clearly, then stop. Trust it to stand on its own. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The one reason rule. For the next 72 hours, when explaining any decision, give exactly one reason, then stop talking. If someone wants more information, they'll ask. Practice trusting that one strong reason is enough. File. Exercise 2. Count your sentences. In your next 5 important conversations, count how many sentences you use to make a point. Then cut that number in half. You'll be shocked at how much clearer you become. File. Exercise 3. No preemptive defense for 1 week. Stop defending yourself before anyone challenges you. No, I know this might sound, or you might not agree, but just state your position. If someone objects, deal with it then. File. Exercise 4. Pause before adding. Every time you finish making a point and feel the urge to add, and also, or another thing is, pause for 3 seconds. Ask yourself, does this need to be said, or am I just uncomfortable with silence? Usually it's the latter. File. Web 2. Exercise 5. Remove hedging language. Record yourself in a conversation. Listen back. Count how many times you used I think, maybe, possibly, kind of, sort of. Then have the same conversation without those words. Notice the difference in authority. File. Exercise 6. The question test. Before explaining something, ask yourself, did they ask for this level of detail? If the answer is no, cut your explanation by 75%. Provide only what was requested. Respect their time. File. Exercise 7. Practice the full stop. Make a statement. Full stop. No follow-up. No, you know what I mean? No nervous laugh. No checking if they understood. Just stop. Let your words stand. Do this 10 times today. File. Web upper. Authority leaks through over-explanation. Every unnecessary sentence is a drop of credibility leaving your reservoir. The fix is not to become cold or withholding. The fix is to trust yourself enough to stop talking after you've made your point. Say what needs to be said. then be quiet. That's where respect lives, in the space you don't fill with words. Chapter 3. How social status is read instantly. Marcus and Owen walked into the same networking event within minutes of each other. Marcus scanned the room quickly, found the refreshment table, and positioned himself near it with his arms crossed. He checked his phone twice in the first minute. Owen entered more slowly, made brief eye contact with 3 people as he walked through the space, and chose a position in the center of the room with open body language. Neither had spoken yet, but within 30 seconds 2 people had approached Owen. Marcus stood alone for the next 20 minutes. Social status is not about your job title, your income, or your achievements. It's about the behavioral signals you broadcast in the first few seconds of any interaction. These signals are processed unconsciously by everyone around you, and they determine whether people move toward you or away from you, whether they listen when you speak or talk over you, whether they test your boundaries or respect them immediately. Most people believe status is something you earn over time through competence and results. That's partially true. But in any given moment, a meeting, a social gathering, a negotiation, status is assigned within 3 to 5 seconds based purely on nonverbal and paraverbal cues. And once that assignment is made, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. People treat you according to the status they've assigned you, which reinforces that status, which shapes how you're treated next time. The good news is that status is not fixed. It's situational and behavioral. You can shift it in real time by understanding the signals and consciously adjusting them. You don't need to change who you are. You need to stop signaling low status through unconscious habits that undermine you before you've had a chance to demonstrate your actual value. The psychology of instant status assessment. Human beings evolved in social hierarchies. Understanding where you stood in relation to others was essential for survival. It determined access to resources, protection, and mating opportunities. That's why our brains are wired to assess status instantly and unconsciously. Web 23, Web 27, Web 32. This assessment happens through pattern recognition in the amygdala and other subcortical structures. Within milliseconds of seeing someone, your brain is processing dozens of micro cues: posture, gaze patterns, movement speed, facial tension, spatial positioning, vocal tone once they speak, and categorizing that person as higher status, equal status, or lower status relative to you. Web 3. High-status signals include controlled movement, steady eye contact, relaxed facial expressions, open body language, slow speech, comfort with silence, and occupying space without apology. Web 2. Low-status signals include rushed movement, averted gaze, tense expressions, closed body language, fast speech, nervous filler words, and making yourself physically smaller. Web. The critical insight is that these signals override logic. Even if you have impressive credentials or intelligent ideas, if your nonverbal behavior signals low status, people will unconsciously discount what you say. And conversely, if your behavior signals high status, people will give you the benefit of the doubt even before you've proven your competence. Web 23, Web 27. High status versus low status behavioral patterns. Movement speed. Low status, rushed, jerky, reactive movements, arriving somewhere and immediately busying yourself, fidgeting. High status, deliberate, smooth, unhurried movements, arriving and taking a moment to settle before acting. Web 28, Web 31. Eye contact. Low status, avoiding eye contact or breaking it immediately when someone looks at you. Looking down or away frequently. High status, comfortable holding eye contact for 2 to 3 seconds, breaking it naturally on your own terms, not out of discomfort. Web 28, Web 29. Physical space. Low status, making yourself small. Arms crossed protectively, shoulders hunched, standing at the edges of rooms, hovering near exits. High status, occupying space comfortably. Shoulders back, arms at sides or resting openly, positioning yourself centrally rather than peripherally. Web 29. Web 31. Vocal patterns low status, speaking quickly, voice rising at the end of sentences, making statements sound like questions, using filler words, like, volume too soft or apologetically quiet. High status, speaking at a measured pace, voice dropping at the end of sentences, minimal filler words, volume appropriate and unapologetic file. Web. Response to silence low status, rushing to fill any pause in conversation, laughing nervously, immediately speaking when there's a lull. High status, comfortable with silence, letting pauses sit, not feeling responsible for keeping conversation flowing constantly. File. Web. Attention management low status, giving immediate, full attention to anyone who addresses you, interrupting yourself mid-task to respond, checking phone compulsively. High status, finishing your current thought or action before redirecting attention, responding when you're ready rather than instantly. Phone put away or ignored, Web 27, Web 31. Seeking versus granting permission. Low status, asking permission for things that don't require it. Can I sit here? Is it okay if I share an idea? Do you mind if I? High status, acting with appropriate autonomy. Sitting where you choose, contributing when you have something to say, doing what's reasonable without checking first. Web 23, Web 27. Real-life scenarios at work, entering a meeting already in progress. Low-status entry, rush in, whisper sorry, squeeze into the nearest chair, frantically pull out materials, glance around apologetically. High-status entry, walk in calmly, make brief eye contact with the speaker to acknowledge them. Choose a seat without asking, sit deliberately, then calmly prepare your materials. The difference is control versus panic. Web 31. At social events, arriving at a party, low-status arrival, hover at the entrance, look around anxiously for someone you know, immediately pull out phone if you don't see anyone, position yourself near the wall or food table. High-status arrival, enter confidently, make brief eye contact with a few people as you scan the room. Position yourself in a conversational area, not hiding. Stand with open body language even if you're alone. People will approach you. Web 23, Web 27. In negotiations, discussing terms, low-status behavior, speaking quickly through your position, immediately justifying every point, leaning forward anxiously, nodding too much, filling every silence with more explanation. High-status behavior, stating your position clearly and briefly, then stopping, sitting back comfortably, letting silence sit, waiting for their response without rushing to fill the space. Web accounting, file. When challenged, someone questions your decision. Low-status response, immediate defense, speaking faster, over-explaining, getting visibly flustered, raising voice slightly. High-status response, pause for 2 seconds before responding, maintain steady eye contact. Speak at normal pace or slightly slower, provide one clear reason, then stop. I made that call based on X. Happy to discuss the reasoning if needed. File molo, file. Meeting someone new. Introduction, low-status introduction, weak handshake, looking away quickly, speaking your name quietly, adding unnecessary context. Sorry, I'm not usually here, I'm just... High-status introduction. Firm handshake, steady eye contact, clear voice saying your name, no apology for existing. I'm Alex is complete. You don't need to justify your presence. Web 2x, Web 2, exact scripts, what to say and what not to say. Instead of, sorry, can I maybe sit here if that's okay? Say, sit down. Or if asking is contextually appropriate, this seat taken? Instead of, I don't know if anyone wants to hear this, but I have an idea if that's okay. Say, I have a thought on this, then share it. Instead of, sorry I'm late, traffic was terrible and I couldn't find parking, and say, enter calmly. If acknowledgement is needed, thanks for waiting. Then proceed. Instead of, so like, I was thinking maybe we could possibly try this? Say, let's try this approach. Instead of, does that make sense? Am I explaining this right? Should I go over it again? Say, make your point. Stop. They'll ask if they need clarification. Instead of, nervous laughter after making a serious point. Say, make your point. Maintain neutral facial expression, no laugh. Instead of, I'm not sure about this, but, or this might be wrong, but, say, if you're genuinely uncertain, don't present it. If you have a position, state it directly. Practical exercises. Exercise 1, movement audit. For one full day, move 30% slower than you normally do. Walk slower, sit down slower, pick up objects more deliberately. Notice how this changes both how you feel internally and how others respond to you. Web 28, Web 31. Exercise 2, eye contact training. In every conversation today, hold eye contact for 3 full seconds before looking away naturally, not staring aggressively, just comfortable, steady presence. Count it mentally at first until it becomes automatic. Web 28, Web 29. Exercise 3, space claiming. In your next meeting or social situation, consciously take up more physical space. If sitting, place your arms on armrests instead of in your lap. If standing, feet shoulder-width apart instead of together. Don't cross your arms. Notice how this changes how people engage with you. Web hormones. Exercise 4. Silence tolerance practice, letting 3 seconds of silence sit after someone finishes speaking before you respond. Count it in your head. This breaks the reactive pattern and signals that you're thinking, not reacting. File 7 Web 28. Exercise 5. Vocal pace control, record yourself speaking. Listen for pace and filler words. Then have the same conversation at 75% of that speed, removing all like, and you know. Notice how much more authoritative you sound. File Malster Web Tilasudum. Exercise 6. Permission audit. For 48 hours, notice every time you ask permission for something that doesn't actually require it. Can I just? Is it okay if? Do you mind if? Make a list. Then do those things without asking next time. Web 23, Web 27. Exercise 7. Center room positioning. At your next social or professional gathering, instead of positioning yourself at the periphery, near walls, exits, food tables, position yourself more centrally. Stand or sit where the action is. Notice who approaches you. Web 27. Exercise 8. The phone test. When someone addresses you while you're doing something else, finish your current action before giving them attention, unless it's genuinely urgent. Don't jump immediately. This signals your attention is valuable. Web 27, Web 31. Social status is not about arrogance or performing superiority. It's about not performing inferiority. It's about removing the unconscious behaviors that signal you don't belong, you're not sure, or you need permission. When you move with deliberate calm, hold steady eye contact, occupy space comfortably, and speak without apologizing. You're not claiming to be better than others. You're simply claiming equal standing. And that claim, made non-verbally and consistently, is what earns you respect before you've said a meaningful word. Chapter 4. Speaking without asking for permission. Elena had been in product development for 8 years. She knew her field. She delivered results consistently. But in every meeting, she prefaced her contributions with softening language. I was just thinking. Maybe we could consider if it's okay with everyone. Her ideas were solid, but the way she presented them made people treat them as optional suggestions rather than professional recommendations. Her colleague Thomas, with half her experience, would simply state his ideas as facts. We need to shift the timeline. The data supports this direction. People listened to Thomas. Elena's ideas were absorbed without attribution or ignored entirely. Speaking without asking for permission is not about being aggressive or dismissive of others. It's about communicating from a position of earned authority rather than insecurity. When you constantly hedge your statements, soften your positions, or seek approval before contributing, you're training people to see your input as tentative. And tentative contributions are rarely taken seriously, even when they're correct. Most people use permission-seeking language unconsciously. It's a social safety mechanism. If you present your idea softly and it's rejected, you haven't fully committed to it, so the rejection stings less. But this protection comes at a cost. You're protecting your ego while sacrificing your credibility. And over time, people stop expecting substance from you because you've trained them to hear everything you say as negotiable. Authority in communication comes from stating positions clearly and standing behind them. This doesn't mean being inflexible or unteachable. It means having enough confidence in your judgment to present it directly, and enough security to adjust if better information emerges. Permission-seeking language signals neither confidence nor flexibility. It signals doubt, the psychology of permission-seeking language. Permission-seeking language originates from a desire to minimize social risk. If you ask permission to speak, you're testing whether your contribution will be welcomed before fully committing to it. If you hedge your statements with maybe and possibly, you're leaving yourself an exit route if challenged. File. This pattern is often reinforced in childhood and educational settings where speaking up without being called on is punished, and tentative answers are socially safer than wrong, confident ones. But in adult, professional, and social contexts, the opposite is true. Tentative communication is perceived as lack of competence, while clear, direct communication is perceived as confidence, even when the content is identical. Web 23, Web 27. Neurolinguistic research shows that hedge words activate uncertainty processing in the listener's brain. When you say, "I think maybe we should possibly consider," the listener's brain processes 5 separate uncertainty markers before getting to the actual content. By the time they reach your idea, they've already categorized it as low confidence. When you say, "We should do X," the brain processes it as a direct recommendation, triggering evaluation of the content rather than the speaker's certainty. Web 29. The most effective communicators understand that permission-seeking language doesn't make you more likable or collaborative. It makes you forgettable. People appreciate clear thinking clearly expressed. They respect contributors who take positions and defend them with evidence, not contributors who float possibilities and wait for group consensus before committing. What permission-seeking language looks like. Hedging openers. "I'm not sure about this, but this might be wrong, but I could be off base here, but you're undermining your own point before making it." File. Softening qualifiers. Maybe, possibly, perhaps, kind of, sort of, I guess, I suppose. These dilute your message and signal lack of commitment. File. Seeking validation mid-statement. Does that make sense? Right? You know what I mean? You're checking for approval instead of trusting your clarity. File. Asking permission to contribute. "Can I just add something? Is it okay if I share a thought? Would it be all right if I..." You don't need permission to participate in spaces you belong in. Web 27. Upward inflection. Making statements sound like questions by raising your voice at the end. "We could try this approach," instead of "we could try this approach." The rising tone says I'm asking, not telling. File. Web Tomu. Apologizing for existing. Sorry to interrupt, but... Sorry, I know this might be off topic, but... Sorry, can I just... Most of these sorries aren't apologies. They're permission requests disguised as politeness. File. Deferring to group unnecessarily. What does everyone think? Immediately after making your point. If you want input, ask for it. But don't immediately undercut your own position by suggesting it only matters if everyone agrees. Web 27. What direct communication looks like. Clear statements. Here's what I recommend. We should do X. The data shows Y. No hedging, no qualifiers. Just your position stated clearly. File. Confident structure. Idea first, support second. Not, well, I was looking at the data and I noticed this pattern and I started thinking maybe. But we should accelerate the timeline. Here's why. Lead with the conclusion. File. Completion without checking. Make your point, full stop. Don't immediately ask if it made sense. Trust that if people are confused, they'll speak up. File. Contributing without preamble. Instead of, can I add something here? Just add it. Another angle on this, and proceed. You're participating, not requesting permission to participate. Web 27. Downward inflection. End statements with your voice dropping, not rising. This signals certainty. Practice if needed. It's a trainable vocal pattern. File. Web on. Selective apology. Only apologize when you've actually done something wrong. Not for speaking, existing, or having an opinion. If you haven't harmed anyone, no apology is needed. File. File. Real-life scenarios. In meetings. Contributing an idea. Low authority approach. I don't know if this is relevant, but I was kind of thinking maybe we could possibly try something different. I'm not sure if it would work, but... High authority approach. Let's try a different approach. Here's what I'm proposing. Then explain. Notice the difference. One asks permission to exist. One presents a solution. File. Web. With leadership, making a recommendation. Low authority. I was wondering if maybe it might be good to consider looking at this from another angle. I mean, if you think that makes sense. High authority. I recommend we approach this from a different angle. Here's my reasoning. You're hired for your judgment. Present it directly. File Mopakus Web. In collaboration, disagreeing with the direction. Low authority. I hear what you're saying and I totally respect that, and you might be right, but I'm just wondering if possibly there's another way to think about this. High authority. I see it differently. Here's why. Respectful but direct. You're not asking permission to disagree. File Mut. Web. In negotiation, stating your position. Low authority. So, I was kind of hoping maybe we could possibly discuss whether there's any chance you might be able to go a bit higher on the offer. High authority. I'm looking for X. Here's what supports that number. State your position. Let them respond. Don't negotiate against yourself with weak language. Web. Stabotage. Setting boundaries. Declining a request. Low authority. Oh, I'm so sorry. I really wish I could help, but I'm kind of swamped right now and I'm not sure I'd do a good job, so maybe someone else might be better. High authority. I'm not available for that. I can recommend someone who might be. Clear boundary. No excessive justification. File. Web. Exact scripts. What to say and what not to say. Instead of, I'm not sure if this is a good idea, but maybe we could possibly consider trying this approach if everyone thinks it makes sense. Say, I recommend this approach. Here's why it works. Instead of, can I just add something real quick if that's okay? Say, one more point. Then make it. Instead of, sorry to interrupt, but I was kind of wondering if maybe we're looking at this the right way. Say, Let's reconsider this angle. Here's what I'm seeing. Instead of, I might be wrong about this and I don't want to speak out of turn, but say, if you have something to say, say it. If you're genuinely uncertain, say, I need more information on X before forming a position. Instead of, does that make sense? Am I explaining this okay? Should I clarify? Say, make your point stop. If they need clarification, they'll ask. Instead of, I guess I'm just thinking maybe we should sort of consider possibly doing it differently. Say, we should do this differently. Here's how. Instead of, what does everyone else think? I don't want to decide without input. Say, here's my recommendation. Let me know if you see issues I'm missing. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. Hedge word elimination. For 24 hours, eliminate these words entirely. Maybe, possibly, perhaps, kind of, sort of, I think, I guess. Force yourself to make direct statements. We should do X instead of maybe we should possibly do X. Notice how much clearer and more authoritative you sound. File son. Exercise 2. No preamble. For 1 week, contribute to conversations without preamble. No, can I just say, nor I was thinking. Just, here's another angle. And proceed. You belong in the conversation. Act like it. Web 27. Exercise 3. Statement inflection. Record yourself making 3 statements about your work or opinion. Listen for rising inflection at the end. Re-record with falling inflection. Practice until down tone becomes natural. Your voice should drop at the end of statements, not rise. File korullet. Webux. Exercise 4. Lead with conclusion. In your next 5 explanations of anything, state your conclusion first, then provide support. We should do X because of Y, not, well, Y is happening, so I was thinking maybe X. Conclusion first is how confident people structure information. File. Exercise 5. Remove approval-seeking notice every time you end a statement with, right, or you know, or does that make sense? For 1 week, cut those entirely. Make your point. Stop. Trust it to land. File. Web. Exercise 6. Apologize only when appropriate. Track every time you say sorry for 48 hours. Note which ones are actual apologies for wrongdoing and which are permission requests or filler. Eliminate the second category. Save sorry for when you've actually harmed someone. File. Exercise 7. Position statement practice. Every day this week, take 1 position on something and state it directly to someone. I'm voting for X. I think Y is the right approach. I'm not attending Z. No hedging, just clarity. Build the muscle of stating positions without softening. File. It's a web. Exercise 8. The 10-word challenge. Take your next recommendation or opinion and express it in 10 words or fewer. We should launch in Q2 for maximum market impact. Brevity forces clarity and removes permission-seeking buffer language. File 7. Speaking without asking for permission is not about steamrolling others or refusing to collaborate. It's about presenting your thinking with the same directness you'd want from others. People don't want to decode hedged, uncertain communication. They want clear positions they can engage with, agree with, challenge, or build on. When you speak directly, you invite real dialogue. When you speak tentatively, you invite dismissal. The choice is yours with every sentence you construct. Chapter 5. Boundaries that don't sound defensive. Rachel had been working late 3 nights in a row when her manager approached her desk at 6 p.m. Friday with another urgent request. Her instinct was to say yes. She always said yes. But this time she paused. I won't be able to take that on this weekend. I can look at it Monday morning, or we can reassign it to someone with availability. Her tone was calm. No apology. No lengthy explanation about her workload or personal plans. Her manager nodded and moved on. Rachel left on time, and nothing broke. For the first time, she'd set a boundary without it turning into a negotiation or an emotional justification. She simply stated what was and wasn't possible. Boundaries are not walls. They're not rejections. They're clear statements about what you will and won't do, delivered without emotion or excess explanation. But most people struggle with boundaries because they confuse firmness with aggression and clarity with rudeness. So they either avoid setting boundaries altogether, leading to resentment and burnout, or they set them defensively, with so much emotional charge that the boundary itself becomes the conflict. Effective boundaries are calm, brief, and non-negotiable. They don't require justification because they're not requests for permission. They're statements of fact about your capacity or limits. When delivered with groundedness rather than defensiveness, they're rarely challenged. And when they are challenged, the boundary holder's emotional neutrality makes resistance futile. The goal is not to avoid disappointing people. The goal is to communicate your limits so clearly that people know where they stand with you, can plan accordingly, and don't waste time pushing against boundaries that won't move. This is not selfishness. It's clarity. And clarity is respectful. The psychology of defensive versus grounded boundaries. Defensive boundaries are emotional. They come from a place of frustration or resentment that's been building. They often include blame, justification, or appeals for understanding. I can't keep doing this. Don't you see how overwhelmed I am? Why does everyone always ask me? This signals that the boundary is negotiable. If the requester can address your emotional state or counter your reasons, the boundary might shift. File some. Web. Grounded boundaries are factual. They come from a calm assessment of your actual capacity or values. They require no emotional support because they're not up for debate. I'm not available for that. That doesn't work for me. I need you to stop doing that. These statements stand alone. They don't invite negotiation because they're presented as unchangeable realities, like stating that a store closes at 9 p.m. File and web. The difference is internal certainty. Defensive boundaries stem from uncertainty. You're not sure you have the right to say no, so you overcompensate with emotion and justification. Grounded boundaries stem from clarity. You know your limits. You've decided this crosses them, and you're simply informing the other person. One is a plea. The other is information. Research on interpersonal communication shows that boundaries delivered calmly and briefly are respected more consistently than boundaries delivered with extensive justification. Justification invites debate. Each reason you provide is an opening for someone to argue why that reason isn't valid. But a simple no or that doesn't work for me provides nothing to argue against. Web 21 File 9. What makes boundaries sound defensive? Over-explanation. I can't do that because I'm already working on 3 other projects and I haven't slept well and my personal life is demanding right now and I just don't have the bandwidth, and each additional reason weakens the boundary. It suggests that if circumstances were different, the boundary might not exist. File most. File. Apologizing for the boundary. I'm so sorry, I really wish I could help. I feel terrible saying no. You're apologizing for having limits. That signals the limit is negotiable if they can make you feel less guilty. File. Emotional charge. Raising your voice. Showing visible frustration using blame language. You always do this. Why can't you respect my time? The emotion becomes the focus, not the boundary. File to file. Seeking approval. I hope that's okay. Is that all right? You understand, right? You're asking them to validate your boundary, which undermines its authority. File and web. Tentative language. I don't think I can. I'm not sure that works for me. I might not be able to. These phrases suggest uncertainty. If you're not certain about your boundary, they won't be either. File. Justifying to the wrong audience. Explaining your boundary to someone who has no legitimate need for that information. Your boss might need to know why you can't take on a project. Your intrusive relative doesn't need to know why you're not attending their event. Web 21. What grounded boundaries sound? Like brief and clear. I won't be able to do that. That doesn't work for me. I need this to stop. Full sentences. No elaboration unless specifically requested. File and the web. Emotionally neutral, calm tone, steady voice, no visible frustration or anger. You're stating a fact, not expressing a grievance. File 12. No apology. Unless you've actually harmed someone, no sorry needed. You're not apologizing for having boundaries. File 9. No justification. You state what is or isn't possible. If someone needs to understand why for legitimate operational reasons, you can provide context. But you don't owe everyone an explanation. File. Web. Consequence if needed. If that continues, I'll end the conversation. If this deadline can't move, you'll need to reassign this task. You're not threatening. You're informing them of natural consequences. Web 21. Repetition without escalation. If someone pushes against the boundary, you calmly repeat it in slightly different words. I understand, and I'm still not available. I hear you, and my answer hasn't changed. This is called the broken record technique. Calm, consistent repetition. File Motubanas Web Betwinze. Real-life scenarios at work. Being asked to stay late again. Low boundary response. Okay. I guess I can stay, but I really need to start leaving on time. This is getting really hard. Or explosive. I'm sick of this. I stayed late twice this week already. High boundary response. I'm not available to stay late tonight. If this is urgent, we should discuss reassigning some of my current workload, or this can wait until Monday. Calm. Clear. No apology. File. Web. With family, intrusive questions about your personal life. Low boundary response. Deflecting awkwardly, changing the subject uncomfortably, or explaining in detail why you don't want to discuss it. High boundary response. I'm not discussing that. If they push, I said I'm not discussing it. Then either redirect to a different topic or leave the conversation. No emotion. Just a line. File. Web tulumutsbao. In relationships, partner repeatedly canceling plans. Low boundary response. It's fine, I understand. While building resentment. Or why do you always do this to me? Emotional explosion. High boundary response. This is the third time. I need reliability. Going forward, if you commit to plans, I need you to follow through or let me know more than an hour ahead. If this pattern continues, I'll make plans that don't depend on you. Clear consequence. No blame. File. Web. With friends, being pressured to attend events you don't want to attend. Low boundary response. Well, I'm kind of tired and I have this thing, but maybe I could stop by for a little while. High boundary response. I'm not going to make it. Have a great time. If they push, I appreciate the invite and I'm not attending. No justification required. You don't owe an essay. Web 21. In professional settings, scope creep on a project. Low boundary response. Yeah, I guess we could add that in. It'll just mean more work. High boundary response. That's outside the agreed scope. We can add it if we adjust the timeline and budget, or we can keep the original parameters. Let me know which you prefer. You're not refusing. You're clarifying reality. Web 21. Exact scripts. What to say and what not to say. Instead of, I'm so sorry, I really can't take that on right now because I'm completely swamped and I haven't had a break in weeks and my family needs me, and say, I'm not available for that. Instead of, stop treating me like this. You never respect my time. Why do you always do this? Say, I need you to stop specific behavior. If it continues, I'll consequence. Instead of, I'd love to help, but I just don't think I can, like I really wish I could, but say, I can't help with that. If truly interested in helping but constrained. I can't help with that this week. I could look at it next Monday if that works. Instead of, is it okay if I say no? I hope that doesn't upset you. You understand, right? Say, no, that doesn't work for me. Instead of, I don't really want to talk about this, it makes me uncomfortable and I'd rather not get into it right now. Say, I'm not discussing that. Instead of, you're always pushing my boundaries, can't you see how much this bothers me? Say, I've set this boundary clearly. At this, I need you to respect it. Then if violated again, I said this doesn't work. This conversation is over. Then leave or end the interaction. Instead of, sorry, I know you needed this, but I just can't stay late again. I have too much going on. Say, I'm leaving at 5:30 today. Let's discuss priorities for tomorrow morning. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The one-sentence boundary. For 1 week, every time you need to set a boundary, use exactly one sentence. No explanation, no apology, just the boundary. I'm not available. That doesn't work for me. I need you to stop that. Then stop talking. Let silence do the rest. File. Web. Exercise 2. No apology challenge for 72 hours. Set every boundary without apologizing. Notice how many times you instinctively want to say sorry for having limits. Catch it and delete it. I'm not attending. Not I'm so sorry I can't attend. File. Exercise 3. Broken record practice. With a friend or in your mind, practice having your boundary pushed 3 times. Each time, calmly repeat the boundary in slightly different words without escalating emotionally. I'm not available. Push. I understand and I'm still not available. Push. My answer hasn't changed. This builds the skill of calm repetition. File. Web. Exercise 4. Consequence statement. Identify one boundary that's being violated regularly. Script a consequence statement. If behavior continues, I will consequence. Practice saying it calmly. Then use it the next time the boundary is tested. Follow through if needed. Web 21. Exercise 5. Justify only when necessary. Before explaining why you're setting a boundary, ask, does this person need this information? Your boss might need to know why you can't take a project. Your coworker doesn't need to know why you're not joining them for lunch. Provide context only where operationally necessary. Web 21. Exercise 6. Delay the explanation reflex. When someone pushes back on your boundary, why not? Pause for 3 seconds before deciding whether to explain. Often you don't need to. Try, it doesn't work for me, or that's not something I'm doing. See if they accept that. Most will. File. Exercise 7. Neutral tone training. Record yourself stating 3 boundaries. Listen for emotional charge, frustration, apologetic tone, tentative language. Re-record in a completely neutral voice as if you're stating the store closes at 9 p.m. Practice until neutral becomes natural. File 12. Web 21. Exercise 8. Exit without justification. This week, leave one conversation or commitment without explaining why. I'm heading out. Leave. No, because I have to. Just the action. Notice that the world doesn't end when you don't provide an explanation. Web 21. Boundaries that don't sound defensive are boundaries that are stated as facts rather than requests for permission. You're not asking if it's okay to have limits. You're informing others of what your limits are. The difference is internal. It's knowing with certainty that your time, energy, and well-being are not negotiable resources. When you know that internally your boundaries land externally with calm authority that invites respect rather than resistance. Chapter 6. Saying less without becoming cold. Jordan was known as the quiet one on his team. He didn't contribute to every discussion. He didn't fill silences with small talk. But when he did speak, people stopped and listened. His manager once said, "Jordan speaks about a third as much as everyone else, but his words carry 3 times the weight." Jordan wasn't cold or distant. He was present and engaged. He just understood that impact comes from precision, not volume. And that saying less, when done with warmth and intention, creates more connection than saying everything that crosses your mind. Most people fear that if they speak less, they'll seem disengaged, unfriendly, or cold. So they overcontribute. They fill every pause. They narrate their thoughts in real time. They mistake quantity of words for quality of presence. But the opposite is true. When you speak constantly, people tune you out. Your words become background noise. Your presence becomes diluted. But when you speak selectively, when every contribution is considered and meaningful, people lean in. They value what you say because you've shown them it's worth listening to. Saying less without becoming cold is about learning the difference between verbal engagement and genuine presence. You can be fully present, emotionally available, and socially warm while speaking half as much as you currently do. In fact, reducing your word count often increases your relational warmth because you're listening more, responding more thoughtfully, and showing others that they have your full attention when you do engage. The goal is not to become withdrawn or aloof. The goal is to become intentional, to replace reflexive speech with purposeful contribution, to stop talking for the sake of filling space and start talking only when you have something worth saying. That shift creates respect, deepens connection, and positions you as someone whose words matter. The psychology of verbal economy. Human attention is finite. In any conversation or meeting, people are constantly making micro-decisions about where to invest their mental energy. And they invest it where they perceive value. If you speak constantly, you train people to stop tracking your contributions carefully because there are too many of them to process. But if you speak rarely and with precision, you train people to pay attention when you do. File 1 Web 20. This is rooted in basic behavioral psychology. Scarcity creates value. When something is abundant, its perceived worth decreases. When something is scarce, its perceived worth increases. If you make your words scarce by speaking only when you have something meaningful to contribute, those words gain value in the listener's perception. File, Web. Importantly, this doesn't make you seem cold if your nonverbal communication remains warm. Coldness is a lack of emotional availability. Avoiding eye contact, closed body language, dismissive facial expressions. But you can maintain warm eye contact, an open posture, engaged facial expressions, and appropriate social acknowledgement while speaking significantly less. The warmth comes from presence, not word count. Web 28, Web 31. Research on charismatic communication shows that the most magnetically engaging people are not the most talkative. They're the best listeners who speak strategically. They create space for others, show genuine interest through attention rather than constant verbal affirmation, and contribute ideas that move conversations forward rather than simply adding to them. Web 31, File 9. What makes someone seem cold versus reserved? Cold behavior includes avoiding eye contact or looking away when someone speaks to you. Closed body language, arms crossed defensively, body angled away. Dismissive facial expressions, eye rolls, smirks, visible boredom. Not acknowledging when someone addresses you directly. Refusing to participate even when your input is specifically requested. Zero social reciprocity. Never asking questions, never showing interest in others. Web 28. Web 29. Reserved but warm behavior includes Steady eye contact when someone is speaking, showing you're listening. Open, relaxed body language even when you're not speaking. Engaged facial expressions. Nodding when you agree, thoughtful expressions when considering. Acknowledging when addressed, even if your response is brief. Contributing strategically when you have something meaningful to add. Asking thoughtful questions that show genuine interest, even if infrequently. Web 28. Web 31. The difference is presence. Cold people are absent even when physically there. Reserved people are fully present but verbally selective. One is disconnection. The other is intentionality. What saying less, without being cold, looks like in meetings. You don't comment on every agenda item. You listen fully to the discussion. When you have a clear position or unique perspective, you contribute it briefly and clearly. Otherwise, you stay engaged non-verbally, nodding, making eye contact with speakers, taking notes. But you don't add words just to be heard. File muts. Web skew. In social settings, you don't dominate conversation or compete for airtime. You ask good questions and actually listen to the answers. You contribute when you have something relevant or when the conversation naturally flows to you. You're comfortable with pauses. You smile genuinely when appropriate. Your engagement is visible in your attention, not your word count. Web dots. File. One-on-one. You're fully present. You make eye contact. You listen more than you speak. But when you do speak, it's thoughtful and relevant. You don't fill every silence with nervous chatter. You're comfortable sitting quietly with someone, which actually creates deeper connection than constant talking. File mutuode. Web tool. In conflict, you don't need to respond to every point. You listen until the person is finished. You pause to consider. Then you respond to the core issue, not every peripheral comment. You're calm and brief. Your limited words carry more weight than a lengthy defense would. File. Real-life scenarios at work. Team brainstorming session. Low-impact approach. Commenting on every idea, adding and also. Repeatedly restating what others said, filling every pause. High-impact approach. Listening to the full discussion, taking notes, then offering one synthesized idea that incorporates multiple threads. What if we combined Sarah's timeline with Marcus's budget approach and tested it on a small scale first? You contributed once. You moved the conversation forward. People remember file munweb samowalad. In social gatherings, group conversation, low-impact approach. Jumping in constantly, telling multiple stories, relating everything back to yourself, nervous talking when there's a lull. High-impact approach, asking someone a genuine question, listening to their full answer, offering a brief relevant comment or follow-up question, then allowing space for others. You're engaged, you're warm, but you're not monopolizing. Webatomwait, file. With a friend who's venting, low-impact approach, interrupting with advice constantly, relating every point to your own experience, filling their pauses with solutions. High-impact approach. That sounds really difficult. Pause, active listening, nodding, eye contact. When they're finished. What do you need right now? Space to process, or do you want my thoughts? Brief. Warm. Focused on them. File. Meeting someone new. Low-impact approach. Nervous rambling. Oversharing personal information, filling every silence with questions, not leaving space for the conversation to breathe. High-impact approach. I'm Alex. Handshake. Smile. How do you know host organization? Listen to full answer. Brief relevant response, comfortable pause. Let the conversation develop naturally. You're present and open without overwhelming web. Web 2. Exact scripts. What to say and what not to say. Instead of, oh my God, I totally know what you mean. That happened to me last year when I was working on this project, and basically what happened was 5-minute story. Say, I've experienced something similar. That's frustrating. Then return focus to them, instead of, yeah, and another thing, and also we should consider this, and have we thought about that, and what if we say, one clear contribution. What if we approached it from this angle, then stop and let others respond, instead of filling silence with, so, anyway, yeah, I don't know, just thinking out loud. Say, allow the silence, comfortable pause, speak when you have something to say. Instead of, I have like 17 ideas about this, okay, so first of all, say, I have a thought on this. Share your strongest idea, stop. Instead of, after someone shares something difficult. Oh no, that's terrible. What are you going to do? Have you tried this? What about that? I think you should say, I'm sorry you're dealing with that. Pause. How can I support you? Instead of, in a meeting. Just to add on to what Sarah said, and also building on Marcus's point and kind of tying into what we discussed last week. Say, to build on that, make your distinct point in 2 sentences. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The 50% rule for 3 days. Speak half as much as you normally do. Literally cut your word count in half. In meetings, contribute half as often. In conversations, listen twice as long before responding. Notice how this changes both your clarity and others' attention to you. File. Exercise 2. 1 contribution per meeting. In your next 5 meetings, limit yourself to 1 substantive contribution. Make it count. Choose your moment. Speak clearly and briefly. Then be done. Watch how much more impact that single contribution has compared to when you commented on everything. File mults web de tukahan. Exercise 3. Question to statement ratio. In social situations, aim for a 2-to-1 ratio. Ask 2 questions for every statement about yourself. This keeps you engaged and warm while reducing your verbal footprint. What are you working on? Listen. Brief, relevant response. How did you get into that field? Listen. You're connected. You're present. You're not lecturing. File. Web. Exercise 4. The 3-second pause. Before responding to anything, pause for 3 seconds. Use that time to decide, is what I'm about to say necessary, or am I just filling space? If it's not necessary, stay quiet. If it is, speak. This simple filter eliminates most unnecessary talking. File boots. Web. Exercise 5. Nonverbal engagement practice. In a conversation where you're consciously speaking less, focus on warm, nonverbal engagement, eye contact, nodding, engaged facial expressions, appropriate smiles. Notice that you can be fully present and connected without constantly talking. Web 28, Web 31. Exercise 6. The listening challenge. Have 1 conversation where your goal is to get the other person to talk for 70% of the time. Ask questions. Listen actively. Contribute briefly only to encourage them to continue or to show you understand. Notice how much people appreciate being truly heard. File. Exercise 7. Remove social filler for 48 hours. Eliminate verbal filler that serves no purpose. So yeah. Anyway. I don't know. Just saying. You know. These are verbal tics that fill silence nervously. When you feel one coming, pause instead. Silence is fine. File. Exercise 8. Post-conversation review. After your next 3 significant conversations, ask yourself, what did I learn about them? If you can't answer with specific details, you talk too much. The goal is to leave conversations knowing more about the other person than they learned about you. File. Saying less is not about becoming a silent observer. It's about becoming an intentional communicator. It's about understanding that your value in a conversation is not measured by how much you say, but by how much you contribute. And contribution is about quality, not quantity. When you speak less but with greater purpose, you become someone people actively want to hear from. Your words gain weight, your presence gains warmth, and you command respect without ever needing to dominate the room. Chapter 7. Staying Calm When You're Tested. Michael was presenting his quarterly projections to the board when the CFO interrupted him mid-sentence. "These numbers don't add up. Did you even verify this before wasting our time?" The room went silent. Michael's heart rate spiked. His first instinct was to defend himself immediately, to explain his methodology, to match the CFO's aggressive tone. Instead, he took a slow breath. He maintained eye contact. He waited 2 full seconds, then he said calmly, "The methodology is sound. I'll walk you through the validation process after we finish the overview." His voice didn't waver. His body didn't tense. The CFO nodded and sat back. Michael continued his presentation. Later, the CEO pulled him aside. "That was impressive. Most people would have gotten defensive. You stayed professional. Being tested is inevitable. In professional settings, someone will challenge your competence. In personal relationships, someone will push your boundaries. In social situations, someone will try to provoke a reaction. These tests aren't always conscious or malicious. Sometimes people test you simply because they're stressed, insecure, or operating from their own unresolved issues. But regardless of intent, how you respond determines whether you pass the test or fail it. Staying calm when tested is not about suppressing emotion or pretending you don't feel provoked. It's about choosing not to let that provocation control your behavior. It's about maintaining your center while others lose theirs. And it's one of the most powerful demonstrations of authority available to you because it shows that you cannot be emotionally hijacked, that your stability is not dependent on others' behavior, and that you're in control of yourself even when circumstances are not in your control. Most people fail these tests because they take them personally. They react immediately. They match the other person's energy. They let their emotions override their judgment. But the people who command the deepest respect are the ones who stay steady in chaos, who refuse to be pulled into reactivity, and who respond rather than react. The psychology of being tested. When someone tests you, they're often unconsciously probing for your emotional stability. They want to know, can I rattle this person? Are they as confident as they appear? Will they hold their ground under pressure? The test itself is information gathering, file. And if you react emotionally, if you get defensive, angry, flustered, or visibly shaken, you've failed the test. You've revealed that your composure is conditional. You've shown that external pressure can destabilize you. And once people know that, your authority diminishes because they've seen that you can be controlled through emotional manipulation. File web. But if you stay calm, if you acknowledge the challenge without being destabilized by it, you've passed the test. You've demonstrated that your emotional state is not controlled by others' behavior. You've shown that pressure doesn't break you. And that revelation actually increases your status because people instinctively respect those who remain stable when others become reactive. Web 23. Web 27, File 9. Neuroscientifically, when someone provokes you, your amygdala activates, triggering fight, flight, or freeze responses. Your prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thought, goes partially offline. Blood flow redirects to survival systems. This is why you lose access to clear thinking when you're emotionally activated. File. The key to staying calm is interrupting this cascade before it fully activates. That's where the pause comes in. The 3-second pause before responding is not just a communication technique, it's a neurological reset. Those 3 seconds allow your prefrontal cortex to override your amygdala's panic response. They give you time to choose your reaction rather than being controlled by it. File. Web. What failing the test looks like. Immediate defense. That's not true. I did verify these numbers. You're not being fair. You've taken the bait. You're now arguing rather than leading. File. Matching their energy. They raise their voice, so you raise yours. They get aggressive, so you get aggressive. You've lost control because you're mirroring their reactivity. File. Visible emotional destabilization. Your face flushes, your hands shake, your voice cracks, your body language closes off. Everyone can see you've been rattled. Web. File. Over-explanation. Let me explain why I did it this way and walk you through every single step and prove to you that I was thorough. You're scrambling. Calm people don't scramble. File. Subtly. File. Passive-aggressive response. Well, I'm sorry you feel that way. If you don't trust my work, maybe someone else should do it. You're expressing hostility indirectly, which reads as weakness. File. Shut down. Complete withdrawal. Refusing to engage. Going silent with visible tension. This is freeze response. Another form of being controlled by the provocation. File. What passing the test looks like. The pause. They challenge you. You take 2 to 3 seconds before responding. This alone shifts the dynamic. You're not reactive. You're considering. File. Tumults. Web. World. Calm acknowledgement. I hear your concern. Not agreeing with it. Not defending against it. Just acknowledging that they spoke. File. Steady body language. You don't lean back defensively or lean forward aggressively. You stay exactly as you were. Your posture doesn't change. Your breathing remains controlled. Web. Web. Neutral tone. Your voice doesn't rise. It might even get slightly quieter. You speak at a measured pace, not rushed, not aggressive. Calm authority. File. Web. Direct, brief response. The data is accurate. I'll provide the validation documentation by end of day. You address the concern without defending your competence. The work will speak for itself. File. Redirect, not react. If the challenge is inappropriate or derailing, you redirect. This isn't the venue for that conversation. Let's discuss it one-on-one after this meeting. You've taken control without engaging in conflict. File. Real-life scenarios at work. Someone undermines you in a meeting. They say, I'm not sure we should trust this analysis. Low response. What? I spent weeks on this. How dare you question my work? High response. Pause. Eye contact. Walk me through your specific concerns. You've invited productive dialogue without getting defensive. If their concerns are valid, you address them. If they're not, your calm composure makes that obvious to everyone. File. Web. In relationships, your partner says something intentionally hurtful during an argument. They say, you're just like your father, never available when it matters. Low response. Immediate emotional explosion or wounded withdrawal. High response and pause, slow breath. That was hurtful. I'm going to step away for 10 minutes. We can continue this conversation when we're both calmer. You've set a boundary without retaliating. You've stayed in control. File. In social settings, someone makes a passive-aggressive comment about you. They say in front of others, must be nice to have so much free time to do whatever you want. Low response. Defensive explanation of how busy you are, or a sarcastic comeback. High response, 2-second pause, calm eye contact. Thanks for your input. Turn attention elsewhere. You've acknowledged and dismissed without engaging. Your calm indifference is the strongest response. File. Web. With authority, a superior is harsh and unfair. They say, this is unacceptable. I expected better from you. Low response. Scrambling to apologize and over-explain or defensive anger. High response. Pause. Steady eye contact. I'd like to understand specifically what didn't meet expectations so I can address it. You're taking responsibility without accepting vague blame. You're staying professional while requesting clarity. File. Web. So, being interrupted repeatedly. They interrupt you for the third time. Low response. Stop interrupting me, or giving up and going quiet. High response. Stop speaking when interrupted. Maintain eye contact with the interrupter. Wait silently until they finish. Then calmly. As I was saying, continue exactly where you left off. You didn't acknowledge the interruption as valid. You simply continued. Your calm persistence asserts your right to finish. File mode. Web. Exact scripts. What to say and what not to say. Instead of, how dare you, that's completely unfair, you have no idea what you're talking about. Say, 3-second pause. I disagree, here's why. State your position calmly and briefly. Instead of, fine, whatever, I don't even care anymore. Say, I need to step away from this conversation, we can continue later. Instead of, why are you always attacking me? What did I ever do to you? Say, that tone isn't productive. If you have a concern, state it clearly and I'll address it. Instead of, you're wrong. Let me explain why you're completely wrong about this. Say, I see it differently. Pause. If they want your perspective, they'll ask. Instead of nervous laughter or apologizing when you've done nothing wrong. Say neutral facial expression. Calm silence. Wait for them to finish, then respond factually. Instead of, I can't believe you just said that. Do you know how much work I put into this? Say, the work is solid. If you have specific concerns, I'm happy to address them. Instead of matching their raised voice with yours. Say, lower your voice slightly, slow your pace, force them to quiet down to hear you. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The mandatory pause. For 1 week, implement a non-negotiable 3-second pause before responding to any challenge, criticism, or provocation. Count it silently. Breathe, then respond. This pause alone will transform how you handle tests. File to web. Exercise 2. Body language lock. When someone tests you, consciously keep your body language exactly as it was before they spoke. Don't cross your arms. Don't lean back defensively. Don't lean forward aggressively. Hold your position. This physical steadiness creates mental steadiness. Web 29, Web 31. Exercise 3. Box breathing under pressure. Practice box breathing. Inhale 4 counts, hold 4, exhale 4, hold 4. Do this in low-stress situations until it's automatic. Then use it when you feel provoked. This physiologically calms your nervous system and prevents emotional hijacking. File. Exercise 4. The acknowledgement phrase. Practice saying I hear you or I understand your concern without agreeing or defending. This neutral acknowledgement gives you time to think while showing you're not rattled. Use it 3 times this week when challenged. File. Exercise 5. Volume control. When someone raises their voice at you, consciously lower yours. This forces them to quiet down to hear you, and it demonstrates that you're in control. Practice this once this week. File Motives. Web 29. Exercise 6. The exit line. Have a prepared exit line for when conversations become unproductive. This isn't a good time to discuss this. Let's revisit when we're both calm. Practice saying it with neutral tone until it feels natural. Then use it when needed. File Muxt. File. Exercise 7. Post-test review. After being tested, review your response. Did you stay calm? Did you pause? Did your voice stay steady? If not, mentally rehearse how you wish you'd responded. This builds the neural pathway for next time. File. Exercise 8. Practice with low stakes. Don't wait for high-pressure situations to practice staying calm. Start with minor irritations. Someone cuts you off in traffic, a barista gets your order wrong, someone is rude in line. Practice the pause, the breath, the calm response. Build the skill with low stakes so it's automatic when stakes are high. File and turn file. Staying calm when tested is not about being robotic or emotionless. It's about having enough control over your emotional state that you choose your response rather than being controlled by your impulses. Every time you stay calm when provoked, you're building a reputation, with others and with yourself, as someone who cannot be shaken. And that unshakability is one of the most powerful forms of authority available. It says, I am steady. You cannot destabilize me, and people respect what they cannot control. Chapter 8. Silence as a Position of Strength. Vanessa sat across from a potential client who had just made an opening offer. 20% below market rate. She'd prepared her counteroffer. She knew exactly what to say. But instead of speaking immediately, she did something unexpected. She held eye contact, leaned back slightly in her chair, and said nothing. 5 seconds passed. 10. 15. The silence grew dense. The client shifted in his seat. He cleared his throat. Finally, he spoke again. Of course, we could potentially go higher depending on deliverables. Vanessa still hadn't said a word, but she'd already moved the negotiation in her direction. She'd weaponized silence. Most people fear silence. They experience it as awkward, uncomfortable, or as a sign that something's wrong. So they rush to fill it with words, any words, to restore what feels like normal conversational flow. But silence is not emptiness. Silence is one of the most powerful communication tools available, and the people who master it operate at a completely different level than those who fear it. Strategic silence creates pressure, reveals information, forces reflection, and communicates confidence. When you're comfortable with silence and others aren't, you hold positional advantage. They'll start talking to fill the void. And when people talk to fill space, they often say things they didn't intend to. They make concessions, expose insecurities, or reveal their actual position, all while you've said nothing. This is not about manipulation. It's about understanding that communication is not just what you say. It's also what you choose not to say. And sometimes the most powerful response to a question, challenge, or offer is no response at all. Just calm, deliberate silence while you maintain full presence and control. The psychology of silence. Human beings are social creatures with a deep psychological need to maintain connection through communication. Extended silence triggers mild anxiety in most people. It feels like connection has been disrupted, like something needs to be fixed. Web 19, Web 22. This discomfort creates an unconscious pressure to restore conversational flow by speaking. When you're comfortable with silence and another person isn't, you've created an asymmetry of control. The discomfort is theirs, not yours. And that discomfort will drive their behavior. They'll speak to relieve it, often revealing more than they intended. Web 22. Silence also forces internal processing. When you don't immediately respond to something someone has said, they're left sitting with their own words. They start questioning. Did I say the right thing? Did I reveal too much? Why aren't they responding? This internal pressure often causes people to reconsider or soften their position without you having to argue against it. Web 19, Web 22. In negotiations, silence is particularly powerful because it signals that you're not desperate for resolution. Desperate people fill silence with more talking, more concessions, more explanation. Confident people let silence sit. They're comfortable with unresolved tension. That comfort communicates strength. Web 22, File 7. Research on persuasion and influence shows that people who use strategic pauses and comfortable silence are perceived as more thoughtful, more confident, and more authoritative than those who speak constantly. The silence itself becomes a status signal. It says, I don't need to fill this space. I'm comfortable here. Web Dalmarton through. Web Dundon file, so types of strategic silence. The negotiation pause. After someone makes an offer or states a position, you say nothing. You maintain eye contact. You wait. Let them sit with what they've said. Often they'll start negotiating against themselves to fill the silence. Of course, we could consider Web 22. The challenge response. Someone challenges your position. Instead of defending immediately, you pause for 3 to 5 seconds. You're not ignoring them. You're considering. This pause communicates that their challenge is being taken seriously, but doesn't threaten you. File to its Web toy. The let it land silence. You've made an important point. Instead of immediately elaborating or asking if they understood, you stop. You let your statement sit in the air. This gives it weight. The silence amplifies what you just said. File Muslin. Web Nanoin. The discomfort tolerance. In a tense conversation, there's a natural pause. Most people rush to fill it. You don't. You sit comfortably in the tension. This demonstrates emotional stability and often causes the other person to reveal more. File. Web Kirtilaet. The refusal to engage. Someone says something disrespectful or provocative. You look at them for 2 seconds. Then you calmly redirect your attention elsewhere without verbal acknowledgement. Your silence dismisses them more powerfully than words could. File. Web. What silence communicates. I'm thinking, not reacting. Immediate responses are often emotional. Pauses signal that you're considering, which implies intelligence and self-control. File. File. I'm not desperate. People who need something fill silence anxiously. People who are secure let it sit. Your comfort with silence signals you're not desperate for approval, agreement, or resolution. Web 22, Web 23. Your move. Silence shifts the burden back to the other person. You've created space they need to fill. This gives them the opportunity to reveal information, make concessions, or show their hand. Web 22. I'm comfortable with discomfort. Weak communicators flee from uncomfortable silence. Strong communicators sit in it. This tolerance for discomfort is a powerful status signal. Web sponsored file. No. What you said doesn't require a response. Sometimes silence is a boundary. It says that comment doesn't deserve engagement. It's dismissal without words. File. Web. Real-life scenarios. In negotiation, discussing compensation, they make an offer. Low response, immediately counter or justify why you need more. High response, hold eye contact, say nothing for 5 full seconds, let the number sit. Often they'll start moving toward you before you've countered. If they don't, then you respond. But you let silence do its work first. Web 22. At work, someone makes an unreasonable request. They ask you to take on additional work with an impossible deadline. Low response. Immediately explain why you can't, listing all your current obligations. High response. Pause. Look at them. 3 seconds. That timeline doesn't work. Stop. Let them respond. Don't fill the silence with justification. File. Web. 28. In conflict. After setting a boundary, you've told someone, I need you to stop doing that. They push back. But I always... Low response. Argue with their justification. High response. Maintain eye contact. Say nothing. Let them hear their own justification hang in the air. Wait. Often they'll realize how weak their excuse sounds when it's met with silence. File. Making a point in a meeting. You've stated your position clearly in 2 sentences. Low response. Immediately elaborate. What I mean by that is, let me explain. High response. Stop. Complete silence. Let your point breathe. Count to 3. If someone has a question, they'll ask. If not, you've said what needed to be said. File submos, web domos 28. Social settings. Someone makes a passive-aggressive comment. They say something subtly insulting. Low response, defensive comeback or awkward laughter. High response. Look at them calmly for 2 seconds, no expression change. Then calmly turn your attention to someone else and continue the previous conversation as if they hadn't spoken. Your silence and redirection dismissed them. Web 27. File 9. Being asked a difficult question. Someone asks something you're not ready to answer or don't want to answer. Low response. Scramble for an answer, fill space with and hedging. High response, pause, consider. I need to think about that. Stop. Don't apologize for needing time. Or if appropriate, pause. I'm not discussing that. No elaboration. File. Web 19. Exact scripts. When to say nothing instead of immediately filling every pause with so, anyway, yeah, say, nothing. Sit in the silence. Be comfortable. Instead of, after making a point, does that make sense? Am I being clear? Should I explain more? Say, nothing. You made your point. Let it stand. Instead of, during negotiation. Well, I was thinking maybe we could possibly go with this number because... Say, state your number, then complete silence. Let them respond to it. Instead of, when challenged, no, that's not right. Let me explain why you're wrong. Say, 3-second pause. Maintain eye contact. Then calmly, I see it differently. Brief explanation if necessary, then stop. Instead of, when someone is rude, excuse me, what's your problem? Say, 2-second look, no expression change. Then redirect attention elsewhere, 0 verbal acknowledgement. Instead of, when setting a boundary, I can't do that because me 5 reasons. Say, that doesn't work for me. Full stop. Silence. Let them process. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The 5-second rule. In your next 3 conversations, pause for 5 full seconds before responding to any question or comment. Count it in your head. This will feel uncomfortably long at first. That's the point. You're training yourself to be comfortable in silence. Web 19. Web 28. Exercise 2. Post-statement silence. Every time you make an important point today, stop completely. No elaboration, no you know, no checking if they understood. Make your point. Count to 3. Say nothing else unless asked. File. Web 19. Exercise 3. The negotiation pause. Next time you're discussing anything negotiable, price, timeline, terms, plans, after the other person states their position, stay completely silent for 10 seconds. Maintain eye contact. See if they start moving before you counter. Web 22. Exercise 4. Eliminate filler sounds for 48 hours. Remove all like, and you know from your speech. When you feel one coming, pause silently instead. Silence is always stronger than filler. File. Exercise 5. The uncomfortable sit. Find a friend willing to help. Sit facing each other in complete silence for 3 minutes. No talking, no phones, just presence and eye contact. This normalizes silence and removes the anxiety around it. Web 19. Exercise 6. One-word boundaries. Practice setting boundaries with minimal words, then silence. No. Silence. That doesn't work. Silence. I'm not discussing that. Silence. Let the boundary stand without justification. File. Exercise 7. The dismissive non-response. When someone says something that doesn't deserve engagement, gossip, passive aggression, provocation, practice the 2-second look and redirect. Make eye contact briefly. No words. Then calmly turn your attention elsewhere. Web 27. File. Exercise 8. Question resistance. When someone asks you something, pause before answering. Not every question requires an immediate response. Practice. Pause. I'll think about that and get back to you. Or simply, pause. Why do you ask? Turn the question back. Web 19. Exercise 9. Meeting silence. In your next meeting, speak only once. Choose your moment carefully. Make one clear, brief contribution. Then be silent for the rest of the meeting unless directly asked something. Notice how much more weight that single contribution carries. File Web. Exercise 10. The extended pause in conflict. Next time someone is angry at you, let them finish completely. Then instead of immediately defending, pause for 5 full seconds while maintaining calm eye contact. Then respond, or don't. That pause changes the entire dynamic. File. Silence is not absence. It's presence without words. It's choosing to communicate through what you don't say rather than filling space reflexively. The world is full of people talking, explaining, justifying, filling every pause. Strategic silence sets you apart immediately. It signals comfort, confidence, and control. It creates space for others to reveal themselves, and it positions you as someone who doesn't need to prove anything, because your comfort in the silence already has. Master silence and you'll command more respect than most people earn with 1,000 words. Chapter 9. Handling disrespect without reaction. David was in a client meeting when the VP on the other side cut him off mid-sentence. This is a waste of time. Did anyone with actual decision-making authority review this proposal? The room tensed. David's colleague looked down, embarrassed. David's first instinct was anger, to defend himself, to point out his credentials, to match the disrespect with sharpness. Instead, he paused. He held eye contact with the VP for 2 seconds. Then he said calmly, "If you have specific concerns about the proposal, I'm happy to address them. If this isn't a productive use of your time, we can reschedule." His tone was neutral, no defensiveness, no aggression. The VP blinked. "No, continue." David proceeded as if nothing had happened. After the meeting, his colleague said, "I can't believe you stayed that calm. I would have lost it." David had just demonstrated something most people never learn: how to handle disrespect without reacting to it. Disrespect will happen, in professional settings, in relationships, in public spaces. It comes as dismissive comments, condescending tones, interruptions, or outright insults. And when it happens, your instinct will be to defend yourself, to prove you deserve respect, to explain why the disrespect is unjustified, to retaliate verbally. But here's the truth. Engaging with disrespect on its terms is always a loss, because the moment you defend yourself against someone who's disrespecting you, you've accepted their frame. You've agreed that their judgment of you matters enough to argue against. Handling disrespect without reaction is an advanced skill. It requires you to separate your self-worth from others' opinions, to understand that someone else's behavior is information about them rather than truth about you, and to respond, if you respond at all, from a place of calm authority rather than wounded pride. When you can do this, you're no longer controlled by others' provocations. You become someone who simply cannot be disrespected, not because people don't try, but because their attempts slide off you without impact. The psychology of disrespect. Disrespect is often a test. People test your boundaries to see if they're real. They test your confidence to see if it's performance or genuine. They test your emotional control to see if they can destabilize you. File Pondude. Web. If you react defensively, if you scramble to justify yourself, if you become visibly upset, if you retaliate, you've failed the test. You've shown that their words have power over you. When you defend yourself against disrespect, you validate it. You're communicating. Your opinion of me matters. I need to change your perception. But high-status people don't operate that way. They're secure enough in their own self-assessment that external judgments don't destabilize them. Web synonym web salon file. Disrespect also thrives on engagement. If someone insults you and you argue back, they've gotten what they wanted. Your attention, your energy, your emotional reaction. But if you don't engage, if you dismiss it with calm indifference or address it with neutral firmness, the disrespect has nowhere to land. It bounces off. And the person who delivered it looks petty while you look unshakable. Web descends. File. Importantly, not reacting doesn't mean tolerating ongoing disrespect. It means responding strategically rather than emotionally. You can set a clear boundary, remove yourself from the situation, or address the behavior directly, all without being controlled by the provocation. The difference is internal. It's responding from choice rather than reacting from impulse. File. What reactive responses look like. Immediate defense. I do have decision-making authority. I've been doing this for 10 years. How dare you question my credentials? You're scrambling to prove your worth to someone who's already decided not to see it. File. Emotional retaliation. You're being incredibly rude. Maybe if you knew how to treat people with respect, your team wouldn't have such high turnover. You've stooped to their level. Now you're both trading insults. File. Over-explanation. Let me walk you through my entire background and every qualification I have so you understand why I'm qualified to be here. You're seeking approval from someone who doesn't respect you. This never works. File, sir, file. Visible hurt. Your face shows you're wounded, your voice wavers, you look away. Everyone can see the disrespect landed, which invites more of it. Web sinus. File motion still. Passive-aggressive response, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. If my work isn't good enough for you, maybe someone else should handle it. You're expressing hostility indirectly, which reads as weakness. File. Escalation. Matching their disrespect with more disrespect, volume with volume, aggression with aggression. Now you're in a conflict, neither of you will win. File 12. What non-reactive responses look like. The pause. They disrespect you. You pause for 2 to 3 seconds before responding. This alone shifts the power dynamic. You're not controlled by their provocation files, so no web calm acknowledgement of behavior, not content. You don't defend against what they said. You address how they said it. That tone isn't productive. Not arguing about whether you're qualified, addressing that the disrespect itself is inappropriate. File. Boundary with consequence. If you're not interested in this meeting, we can end it now. You've given them a clear choice. You're not begging them to respect you. Webromduk. File. Strategic non-response. Sometimes the most powerful response is none at all. You maintain eye contact for 2 seconds, then calmly redirect your attention elsewhere. You've dismissed them without words. File tone. Neutral inquiry. What specifically concerns you about the proposal? You've shifted from defending to clarifying. If they have legitimate concerns, you'll address them. If they're just being difficult, this exposes it. File. Exit without justification. I'm not continuing this conversation. Then leave. No explanation of why their behavior is unacceptable. No appeal for better treatment. Just a clear boundary and enforcement file. Web. Real-life scenarios at work. Public undermining. Someone questions your competence in front of others. Low response. I know what I'm doing. I've been here longer than you. High response. 2-second pause. Steady eye contact. If you have specific concerns, let's discuss them after this meeting. You've declined to engage publicly and offered appropriate venue. If they continue, I've addressed that. Let's move forward. Then continue as planned. File. Web. In relationships, intentional hurtfulness. Your partner says something cruel during an argument. Low response, cruel comment back or wounded withdrawal. High response, pause. That was hurtful. I'm stepping away. We can talk about this when you're ready to communicate respectfully. You've set a boundary without retaliating. You've maintained dignity. File Mutstin, Web. Service interactions, condescending treatment. Someone speaks to you dismissively. A waiter, a receptionist, a clerk. Low response, getting angry and making a scene or accepting poor treatment. High response, calm, direct eye contact. I'd like to be treated with basic courtesy. If that's not possible, I'll speak with your manager or take my business elsewhere. Clear boundary. No emotion. Web 21. Social settings. Public insult. Someone insults you in front of others, trying to get a reaction. Low response. Insulting them back or defending yourself at length. High response. Look at them for 2 seconds. Slight eyebrow raise. Then calmly turn to someone else. So as I was saying, you've dismissed them completely. Your non-reaction is the reaction. Web 27, File 9. Professional context. Being talked over repeatedly. Someone interrupts you for the 3rd time. Low response. Stop interrupting me, or giving up. High response. Stop speaking when interrupted. Maintain eye contact with them. Wait silently until they finish or trail off. Then, without acknowledging the interruption, as I was saying, continue from where you left off. You've reasserted your right to speak without getting emotional. File. Web 2. Exact scripts. What to say and what not to say. Instead of, how dare you speak to me that way? Do you know who I am? I deserve respect. Say, that's not acceptable. Speak to me with respect or this conversation ends. Instead of, I can't believe you just said that. Let me tell you why you're wrong about me. Say, 2-second pause, calm eye contact. Noted. Then continue with your agenda or exit. Instead of, you're always so rude. Why can't you ever treat people decently? Say, I'm not continuing this conversation while you're speaking this way. Then leave or redirect. Instead of, I'm not what you think. Let me explain all the reasons you're mistaken about me. Say, think what you want. Then disengage. Instead of matching their raised voice with yours, say, lower your voice, slow your pace. Lower your voice, or simply exit without engaging. Instead of, you have no right to speak to me that way. I've worked so hard and you're being so unfair. Say, we're done here. Then leave. No explanation, no justification. Instead of, fine. If you don't appreciate my work, maybe I just won't do anything. Say, if this arrangement isn't working, we should discuss that directly. Otherwise, I'll continue as planned. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The non-defense challenge. For 1 week, when anyone criticizes or disrespects you unless it's constructive feedback from a trusted source, do not defend yourself. Respond with, okay or noted or I see it differently. Then move on. Notice how much energy you save. File. Exercise 2. The 2-second stare practice, holding calm eye contact for 2 full seconds when someone disrespects you, before deciding whether to respond verbally. This communicates, I see what you just did. I'm choosing not to engage. It's unnerving for them and empowering for you. Web 27, File 9. Exercise 3. Behavior address, not content defense. When disrespected, address the behavior rather than defending against the content. That tone isn't appropriate, not, that's not true about me. Practice this distinction. You're setting a standard for interaction, not justifying your worth. File Subamum Webs. Exercise 4. Exit without explanation. This week, exit 1 disrespectful interaction without explaining why you're leaving. I'm done with this conversation. Leave. No, you're being rude, so just action. Notice that the world doesn't end. Web 21 File 9. Exercise 5. The strategic dismissal. When someone makes a disrespectful comment in a group, practice the dismissive redirect. Look at them briefly. Slight facial acknowledgement, raised eyebrow or small head tilt. Then turn to someone else and continue your previous conversation. You've dismissed them without words. Web 2.7 File. Exercise 6. Consequence statement and enforcement. Choose one relationship or context where disrespect is recurring. State a clear consequence. If you continue speaking to me this way, I will end the conversation. Then enforce it the next time it happens. No second warning, just enforcement. Web 2 Files. Exercise 7. Delay the defense reflex. When insulted or disrespected, count to 5 before deciding how to respond. Often in those 5 seconds, you'll realize the comment doesn't deserve a response at all. Practice. Pause, breathe, assess, then choose your action. File 12. Exercise 8. Indifference practice. Identify someone whose opinion genuinely doesn't matter to you. Notice how easy it is not to defend yourself to them. Their disrespect slides off. Now practice applying that same indifference to others. Their opinion is just noise. Web 23 File 9. Exercise 9. The broken record for boundaries. If someone repeatedly disrespects a stated boundary, don't re-explain it. Just repeat it calmly. I said that's not acceptable. As I mentioned, I'm not discussing this. I've already addressed that. Same words, same calm tone. They'll realize you're immovable. File and web. Disrespect is not a reflection of your value. It's a reflection of the other person's insecurity, poor emotional regulation, or lack of social skills. You don't owe anyone a defense of your worth. You don't owe them proof of your competence. You don't owe them an emotional reaction. What you do owe yourself is the dignity of not engaging with people on terms that diminish you. Handle disrespect by refusing to be controlled by it. Acknowledge it if necessary. Set a boundary if appropriate. Then move on. Your calm, your refusal to defend, your strategic non-engagement, that's the response that earns respect. Not from everyone, but from the people who matter. And most importantly, from yourself. Chapter 10. Becoming someone who is not questioned. There are people who contribute to conversations, and then there are people who end them. When the first type speaks, the discussion continues. Others debate, add qualifications, propose alternatives. When the second type speaks, the room quiets, not because they're loud or aggressive, but because what they've said carries such weight and clarity that there's nothing left to argue. The decision has been made, the path is clear, and everyone instinctively moves forward. Catherine had been leading product strategy for 2 years. In her first year, every recommendation she made sparked lengthy debate. People questioned her assumptions, suggested modifications, proposed competing approaches. By her second year, something had shifted. When she made a recommendation, people nodded and began execution planning. The difference wasn't her expertise. She'd been competent from day one. The difference was how she communicated that expertise. She'd learned to speak with such calm certainty, such economy of words, and such clear ownership of her position that challenging her felt unnecessary. She'd become someone who is not questioned. This is the highest level of communication authority. It's not about being unchallengeable. Good ideas should always be open to scrutiny. It's about building a track record and presence so solid that people default to trusting your judgment unless they have specific substantive concerns. It's about earning the reputation where your words don't just contribute, they conclude. And it's built through everything this audiobook has covered: presence, brevity, groundedness, boundaries, strategic silence, and unshakable calm. The psychology of final authority. Human beings look for leadership, especially in uncertainty. When a group is stuck, when no one knows the next step, there's a collective search for someone to follow. The person who steps into that void with calm certainty becomes the de facto authority, regardless of formal title. Web 13, Web 14, Web 23. Most people don't step into that role because of fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of responsibility, fear of being challenged. So they hedge. They present opinions tentatively, leaving room to retreat if others disagree. I think maybe we could possibly consider that hesitation disqualifies them from being the final voice. File motion web domofunda. People whose words carry final authority don't wait for permission. They assess the situation, form a clear position, and state it with conviction. Not arrogance, conviction. There's a critical difference. Arrogance is performative and defensive. Conviction is quiet and certain. It doesn't need to announce itself because it's already grounded in competence and self-trust. Web 13, Web 23, Web 27. When you speak with conviction, you trigger something psychological in others. Relief. Decision-making under uncertainty is exhausting. Most people are grateful when someone else takes on that burden, as long as that person seems competent and grounded. Your certainty gives them permission to stop debating and start executing. Web 14, File 9. Neuroscientifically, when someone demonstrates consistent, calm authority, making decisions, owning outcomes, staying steady under pressure, others' brains begin to associate that person with safety and direction. This creates automatic deference. It's why even in non-hierarchical settings, certain people naturally emerge as leaders. They've trained the group to trust their judgment. Web 13, Web 31. What separates decision enders from contributors? They speak last, not first. They listen to the full discussion before weighing in. This ensures their input is informed and comprehensive. It also builds anticipation. When they finally speak, people are ready to listen. File moum. Web. They distill complexity into clarity. While others add layers and caveats, they simplify. They cut through noise and name the core issue in 1 or 2 sentences. Clarity ends debate because it removes ambiguity. File. They speak in decisions, not suggestions. They don't say, maybe we could consider. They say, here's what we're doing. They shift the conversation from exploration to action. Web download. File. They own the outcome. They're willing to be wrong. They don't hedge with I think or it might be best. They commit. And that commitment signals confidence, which others trust. Web 13, Web 14. They don't over-explain. Once they've stated their position, they stop. They trust it to stand without justification. Over-explanation dilutes authority. File Web 16. They stay emotionally neutral. No frustration, no defensiveness, no need to win. They're solving the problem, not protecting their ego. That neutrality makes them trustworthy. File. They don't repeat themselves, they say it once, clearly. If clarification is needed, others will ask. Repetition signals insecurity about whether you were heard. File. What it looks like in practice. In meetings, ending circular debate, the team has debated an approach for 25 minutes. Multiple valid perspectives. No resolution. You've been listening, observing. When there's a natural pause, you say, we're moving forward with option B. It addresses the core issue without overcomplicating execution. We'll set a 30-day review checkpoint. Let's assign ownership and move to the next item. No one argues. The meeting continues. You've just saved 20 more minutes of circular discussion. File tstomo. Web sto in crisis. Providing structure in chaos. Something breaks. Everyone's talking over each other, pointing fingers, panicking. You let the initial noise settle. Then, here's what matters right now. First, we contain the issue. Marcus, you own that. Second, we communicate with stakeholders. I'll handle it. Third, we identify root cause and fix the process. Team meeting tomorrow at 9. Questions on next steps? People exhale. You've given structure to chaos. That's leadership. File. Web. In relationships, resolving stuck decisions. You and your partner have been discussing vacation options for 3 days. No progress. You finally say, "We're booking the mountains. It meets both our needs and fits the budget. I'll make the reservation this weekend unless you have a specific deal-breaker concern." Not controlling, deciding. Your tone is collaborative but final. Because someone needs to move this forward. File. In negotiations, ending posturing. Both sides have been circling for an hour. You say, "Here's the offer that works. X price, Y timeline, Z deliverables. If that works, we proceed. If not, we part professionally. Let me know by Friday." You've removed the dance. You've stated clear terms. Now they decide. Web 14, Web 22. Handling team conflict. Solving, not mediating endlessly. 2 team members are arguing about approach. It's been 10 minutes. You step in. You both want the same outcome. The disagreement is execution. Here's the middle path. State it briefly. Try that first. If it doesn't work in 2 weeks, we revisit. Move forward. You didn't take sides. You solved the problem. File. Exact scripts. What to say to end discussions instead of, "I don't know, what does everyone think? Maybe we could try this approach or maybe something else." Say, "Here's my recommendation." State it clearly. "Unless there's a critical concern I'm missing, let's execute this." Instead of, "I think maybe we should possibly consider going in this direction, but I'm open to other ideas." Say, "We're going with this approach. Here's why." One sentence. Here's the next step. Instead of, "Can we all agree on this? Does everyone feel comfortable moving forward?" Say, "This is the decision. If there's a deal-breaker concern, speak now. Otherwise, we're proceeding." Instead of, I could be wrong, but it seems like maybe we should." Say, "We're doing X. Questions on execution?" Instead of, "So I've been thinking a lot about this, and after considering all the variables and weighing the options." Say, "The answer is X. Here's the next action." Instead of, "Does that make sense? Are we all on the same page? Should I clarify anything?" Say, "State your decision. Stop. If they need clarification, they'll ask." Instead of, "What if we try this, and if it doesn't work, we could maybe pivot to something else," or say, "We'll try this for 30 days. We'll evaluate results and adjust if needed." Let's move. Practical exercises. Exercise 1. The last to speak rule. In your next 5 group discussions or meetings, do not speak until at least 5 people have contributed. Listen fully. Absorb perspectives. Then, when you do speak, synthesize what's been said and provide clear direction. Notice how much more weight your words carry when you're not competing for airtime. File. Webrodomount. Webrobahet. Exercise 2. Decision statements, not suggestions, for 1 week. Practice stating decisions in direct language. We're doing X, not maybe we should consider X. This is the approach, not I think this might work. Eliminate tentative language entirely. Notice the difference in how people respond. File. Web 14. Exercise 3. The one-sentence explanation practice, stating your reasoning in 1 sentence maximum. We're doing X because it solves Y. That's it. If someone needs more detail, they'll ask. But don't preemptively bury your decision in justification. File. Exercise 4. Remove hedging language completely. For 72 hours, eliminate these phrases. I think maybe. We could possibly. It might be good too. I'm not sure, but This may or may not. Replace with direct statements. We should do X. The answer is Y. Here's the plan. Track how much more authoritative you sound. File Torsen. Web 14. Exercise 5. End one meeting early. In a meeting that's dragging without progress, step in with, I think we have what we need to move forward. Let's wrap up and execute. Then actually end the meeting or move to the next topic. Practice the skill of calling time when discussion has exhausted its value. Web 13. Web 31. Exercise 6. Take public ownership. When a group is stuck and no one's deciding, say, I'll make the call. We're going with option. I'll own the outcome. Then follow through. Practice being the person who steps into the decision void when others won't. Web 14. File. Exercise 7. Synthesis before opinion. Before offering your position in a discussion, practice synthesizing what's been said. I've heard 3 main perspectives, A, B, and C. Here's what I think we should do. This shows you've listened, which makes your conclusion more credible. Web 13. Web 31. Exercise 8. Consequence follow-through. Every decision you make, own the outcome. If it works, acknowledge the team. If it doesn't, own the miss and adjust. Never deflect responsibility. This track record is what builds trust that makes future decisions unchallengeable. Web 14. Exercise 9. Speak 50% less. Decide 100% more. In all meetings and discussions this week, cut your total speaking time in half. But when you do speak, make it a decision or clear direction. Quality over quantity. Your words should move things forward, not just add to the conversation file in the web. And Exercise 10. Practice low-stakes decision leadership. In informal settings, where to eat, what movie to watch, which route to take, practice being the one who makes the final call. Let's do X. Not rudely, just decisively. Build the muscle of ending discussions in low-stakes situations before applying it to high-stakes contexts. Web 14. Building the reputation. Becoming someone who is not questioned doesn't happen instantly. It's built through consistency. Every time you speak with clarity instead of confusion, every time you provide direction instead of adding to debate, every time you own outcomes without deflecting, you're building a reputation. Web 13, Web 14, Web 23. People start to notice. They begin waiting for your input before finalizing decisions. They start trusting your judgment over extended debate, and eventually when you speak, the room shifts. Not because you demanded it, but because you earned it through competence, consistency, and calm authority. Web 31. This reputation is fragile early on. One moment of hedging, one deflection of responsibility, one decision made purely for approval, and you lose credibility. Protect it. Speak only when you have clarity. Own every outcome, and maintain the behaviors that built the reputation in the first place. Web 14. Web 23. The responsibility being the person whose words and discussions comes with weight. People will look to you in uncertainty. They'll expect direction when others waffle. They'll hold you accountable when things go wrong. That's the price of authority. Web 13. Web 14. But this isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing. Willing to step up when others won't. Willing to make the call when the group is stuck. Willing to own outcomes, good or bad. That willingness, more than flawless judgment, is what earns you the right to be the final voice. Web 13. Web 14. You won't always be right, but if you own your decisions, learn from errors, and continue showing up with clarity and calm, people will keep deferring to your judgment. Because they'd rather follow someone who makes clear decisions and adjusts course when needed than someone who never decides at all. Web 14. Becoming someone who is not questioned is not about dominance. It's about service. You're ending the discussion because the group needs direction and you're willing to provide it. You're not silencing others, you're moving everyone forward. And when done with competence and respect, that's not control. That's leadership. You've now completed the full framework. You understand that respect is felt before it's spoken. That over-explaining destroys authority. That status is read instantly through behavior. That you can speak without seeking permission. That boundaries don't require defense. That saying less creates more impact. That staying calm when tested is power. That silence is strength. That disrespect doesn't deserve your reaction. And that you can become someone whose words don't just contribute, they conclude. This isn't about performing a role. It's about removing the habits that weaken you and embodying the behaviors that command respect. Not from everyone, but from the people who matter. And most importantly, from yourself. Now go use it. Conclusion. Respect is not loud. It's not aggressive. It's not about winning arguments or proving you're the smartest person in the room. Respect is quiet, steady, and earned through how you carry yourself when no one is forcing you to. It's built in the pauses you take instead of reacting, in the boundaries you hold without apologizing, in the silence you're comfortable sitting in while others scramble to fill the space, in the calm you maintain when everyone else is losing theirs. You've learned that people don't respect your words until they respect your presence, that needing approval kills authority faster than any mistake ever could, that speaking from emotion might feel justified, but it always costs you control. You understand now that over-explaining doesn't build credibility, it destroys it. That social status is assigned within seconds based on behavioral signals you can learn to control. That speaking without asking for permission is not arrogance, it's confidence in your earned expertise. You know that boundaries don't need lengthy justifications. That saying less doesn't make you cold, it makes you intentional. That staying calm when tested is one of the most powerful demonstrations of strength available to you. That silence is not awkwardness or weakness, it's strategy, leverage, and authority. That disrespect doesn't deserve your defense or your emotional energy. And that you can become the person whose words don't just add to conversations, they end them. Because what you've said is clear enough and strong enough that there's nothing left to debate. None of this is about becoming someone you're not. It's about stripping away the habits that weaken you, the reflexive over-explaining, the constant approval-seeking, the emotional reactivity, the need to fill every silence with noise, the impulse to defend yourself to people whose opinions don't matter. Remove those patterns and what remains is the real you. Grounded, clear, and unshakable. This is not a one-time transformation, it's a practice. Every conversation is an opportunity to apply what you've learned. Every moment of tension is a chance to choose calm over chaos. Every boundary you hold, every silence you sit with, every time you refuse to react to provocation, you're reinforcing the person you're becoming. And with each repetition, these behaviors stop being techniques and start being who you are. Some people won't like this version of you. The one who doesn't explain endlessly. The one who doesn't chase approval. The one who says no without guilt or justification. The one who can't be emotionally manipulated or provoked into reaction. Let them go. You're not here to be comfortable for everyone. You're here to command respect from others, yes, but more importantly, from yourself. The world is full of people talking, explaining, defending, performing, reacting. You don't need to be one of them. You can be the person who speaks only when they have something worth saying, who stays calm when others panic, who sets boundaries without negotiating them, who uses silence as power, who handles disrespect by refusing to engage with it, who walks into rooms and shifts the energy without saying a word. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to argue to be right. You don't need to perform to be valued. You just need to show up with intention, speak with clarity, hold your ground with calm. and trust that the people who matter will see it. The ones who don't? They were never your audience. Respect is not something you demand. It's something you embody. And now you know how. Go forward. Speak less. Mean more. Stay grounded. And become the person whose presence alone commands the room, without saying a word. If this audiobook has brought you clarity, strength, or peace, consider supporting the channel so more people can find this message. Please like this audio and subscribe. Your support helps this work reach those who feel overwhelmed, anxious, or unprotected, and gives them a path back to calm, confidence, and emotional freedom. Thank you for listening. Stay grounded. Stay wise. You are the anchor in every storm.